You're listening to the REI Marketing Nerds Podcast, the leading resource for real estate investors who want to dominate their market online. Dan Barrett is the founder of AdWords Nerds, a high-tech digital agency focusing exclusively on helping real estate investors like you get more leads and deals online, outsmart your competition, and live a freer, more awesome life. And now, your host, Dan Barrett.
All right, hello everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of the REI Marketing Nerds Podcast. How are you? As always, this is Daniel Barrett here from AdWords Nerds, and I've been traveling the last couple weeks. I've actually had a couple different seminars, masterminds, stuff like that I've been to, and really digesting a lot of awesome, fun stuff that I really can't wait to digest and break down and give to you folks, because I really view my role here as I'm going out, I'm either testing and developing myself inside AdWords Nerds, or I'm going out other seminars, really high level marketing people, and I'm bringing that information to the real estate investing space. That's my role here. That's what I like to do. That's what I hope you're getting out of this podcast. One of the seminars that I just went to was on data-driven marketing. And if you know anything about me, you've known I've been kind of banging this drum for a long time. I'm very big on data. In fact, when I got started in the real estate investing space, when I first started working with investors as clients, I didn't know anything about it. I really didn't. I'd been doing pay-per-click and SEO for like ambulance companies and plastic surgeons and plumbers and all sorts of random stuff. And the investing space was totally new to me, totally new. And really there wasn't anybody out there that was teaching that stuff. And in fact, I still remember Sean Terry, shouts out to Sean Terry, who's a really, really incredible guy, really successful investor. He was one of the only ones that was talking about AdWords or any of that stuff. So I had to kind of make my own way. There wasn't really a blueprint laid out that people were sharing. We had to figure it out. And the only way you can figure that stuff out is by using data. You've got to get out there into the market, see what works, see what doesn't work, take that information in and use it to make a better version of what you're doing. And essentially, that's still what we're doing today. I mean, even if you come into, you come and look behind the scenes at AdWords Nerds, that's essentially what we're doing. We're constantly launching new account builds, new keyword portfolios, new ad types, whatever it is. And we're seeing, what connects with motivated sellers, what actually works. I wanted to lay out a couple different frameworks you can use this within your own business, because it's true. We have a lot of data. We've got a lot of investors. We've got millions and millions of data points every month that we look at, but it doesn't need to be like that. And you can take this data mindset, this data first mindset, and apply it to your investing business, whether you're trying to do a deal a month or you're trying to do hundreds of deals a year. You can apply data to what you do in order to make it better, in order to get more leads, get leads more cheaply, get leads more quickly. It's really a life-changing process, but it all kind of gets overwhelming. Right? There's a lot of stuff to look at. There's a whole bunch of tools. So I want to break down some easy ways that you can do this. Okay, just some real simple ways. And I'm going to try to keep this high level, because honestly, marketing channels, tools, they change very rapidly, right? Today we got AdWords on Facebook. 5 years from now, I don't know what we're going to have. And so I want to keep this high level because the core concepts never actually change. You can apply the core concept to any marketing channel, whether it's direct mail, pay-per-click, cold calling, door knocking, literally anything you can apply this framework to. And that's really, really useful, because that means I'm going to give you the tool you can take forward and use for years and years, not just for the couple months following this podcast. All right. So first framework I want to give you is RFM. This is a really powerful one if you can understand it. And I'm going to give it to you through the lens of pay-per-click, but you can apply this to a lot of different businesses in a lot of different contexts. RFM essentially is a way of predicting who is most likely to become your client or buy something from you or sell you their house, whatever that transaction is, who is most likely to go through that transaction with you in the future, right? And the only way we can really predict this is by looking at who's purchased from us or sold to us in the past. All right, so let me take a step back, break this down a little bit. RFM stands for recency, frequency, and money. All right. Now, what does that mean? It means if I take a list, let's say you sell you got a candy shop. All right. You run a candy store, right? And you sell penny candies because who knows? I'm sure that's still a business in 2018. So you sell candy and you want to try to make a list of people that are most likely to respond to, let's say, an ad you're going to run promoting your candy company. All right. Who are you going to send that ad to? Well, you could send it to everybody under the sun, everybody in the world, right? But the response rate is going to be bad, right? Most people are not going to be able to buy candy from you. Most people are not going to want to come to your store. Most people aren't going to have the money. Whatever it is, you just send to everybody on earth, probably not going to do super well, and it's going to cost a lot of money. Now, you could shrink that down and just send to everybody who's ever been interested in your store. Let's say everybody on your email list, everybody who's ever bought from you, everybody that's ever been a customer. And that list would do a lot better, right? A lot better. But we could actually get it to be even better than that by applying this RFM framework to our list of clients. So let's say we take a huge list, everybody who's ever shown any interest in our candy store in the past. So we've got a big list of all these people. And we go through and we grade these people on the RFM scale. So the first step is recency. How recently has this person purchased from my candy store? Did they come in this week? Did they come in last month? Did they come in this year? The more recently this person has purchased candy from me, the higher their score is going to be. And this is something that really blew my mind when I learned this, and it's still kind of counterintuitive to me. But the people who are most likely to buy from you in the future are the people who have most recently bought from you. This is just a statistical truth of nature, right? If you look at people that are buying shoes, some of those people are just going to buy, be like addicted shoe buyers. They're going to be buying shoes all the time. They're going to buy shoes every single day. And so if you just take the whole sample size of the store, the people who have most recently bought shoes, well, those people are just statistically most likely to come back in and buy shoes in the future. So we've got recency, right? We grade our whole list of candy buyers based on how recently they've come into the store. Now, the next one is frequency. Okay. How often do they buy from us, right? It's one thing if they just came in and bought a piece of candy, but it's another thing if they come in and they buy candy every single week, right? So every single week, or if they buy, 10 pieces of candy a year, or 100 pieces of candy a year, or 1,000 pieces of candy a year, right? So what is the frequency with which these people buy candy from me? And I'm going to grade them there, right? So I've got recency, I've got frequency. The last one is money. How much money do they spend? How much money are they worth, right? Do they come in and they buy the penny candies, or do they buy the king size candy bars for $10 a piece or whatever it is? Who spends the most money with me? Right? So everybody on my list is graded on these three categories. The recency with which they have bought candy from me, the frequency with which they buy candy from me, and the amount of money they spend. And the people that get the highest score across all of those categories are the people that are most likely to respond to my ad. And so if I take that ad I'm going to run for my candy store and I just send it to the top 20% of my past clients that score high on the RFM categories, that ad is going to crush it. It's going to crush it. It's going to get an incredible response rate. People are going to buy that candy. It's going to be awesome, right? Now, we're talking about candy. How do we apply this to real estate investing? Well, I'm going to get specific here, and I want to talk about pay-per-click because you can actually apply this model to the ads you are running in AdWords or in Facebook. Right? Really anything. I'm going to focus on AdWords, but you can absolutely do this in Facebook. Let's look at the keywords we are running. Okay. How recently had the keywords that I'm looking at generated a lead for me? How frequently do they generate leads for me? And when they do generate leads for me, how likely are they to become a deal? This is how we grade the keywords that we run. We don't just say how many conversions did we get. We look at it on an RFM basis. Certain keywords don't generate a lot of leads, but those leads turn into deals, and so they need to be scored highly, right? Some don't necessarily generate a lot of leads per month, but they generate leads very frequently, right? This is multiple ways of looking at the same data, but allowing us to get at the core of this question we are answering, which is like, how can I spend the least amount of money and generate the highest amount of deals? All right. This is what this is about, the RFM model. You can apply this to pretty much any kind of marketing you want to do, any audience you're looking at. You could look at zip codes that you target this way. All right. What's the recency in which a zip code has produced a deal? What is the frequency the zip code produces deals? What is the total deal value this zip code produces? That's the RFM model. You can apply it to the zip codes. You can apply it to the neighborhoods. You can apply it to the streets that you are targeting. This is a very powerful model that you can apply across all of the marketing that you do that will permanently change the efficiency with which you produce deals. It's pretty freaking awesome, man. Now, I want to get to another data framework, which is probably one that you're familiar with, which is 80-20. And I think 80-20 has gotten very popular. People talk about it a lot. If you're not familiar, the 80-20 idea here is based on this economic principle. It's called the Pareto principle. And it basically says 20% of the inputs tend to produce about 80% of the outcomes, right? So like the classic economical example was, he's like looking at bean plants, and about 20% of all the bean plants produced 80% of the harvest, right? And then this guy, looked at economics of Italy at the time, and he said, wow, about 20% of the families in Italy, own about 80% of the wealth. All right. So this is the 80-20 principle. It's been applied pretty much everywhere. It's been popularized in several books. And so people tend to know about it. But it gets hairy when you try to apply it to your actual marketing, right? It's like, what are you saying? I'm going to cut out like 80% of my marketing, right? And usually that's not how it works, right? You don't necessarily just cut everything out. But let me give you a few examples of how you can apply the 80-20 principle to, for example, your pay-per-click campaigns. And again, I'm going to use pay-per-click as an example because it's what I like to talk about or whatever. That's my baby. That's my baby. But you can apply this to really anything, direct mail, any kind of marketing you're doing, right? Door knocking, cold calling, driving for dollars, bandit signs. They are all able to be analyzed this way.
Are you an investor who wants to dominate your local market? Do you want more leads and deals online? Then download your copy of the Motivated Seller Blueprint, absolutely free, at www.adwordsnerds.com/gift. What are you waiting for? Go to www.adwordsnerds.com/gift right now to get your copy of the Motivated Seller Blueprint.
Let's say you have an AdWords campaign or a Facebook campaign that is spending money producing leads, and you want to drop your lead costs, right? Well, how would I do that? Well, first thing I would do is I would actually look at it by device. If you go into AdWords, there's a report there called Dimensions. You can go in there and you can see by device. You can see like, okay, how many desktop computers have converted and what did that cost? You can see how many tablets have converted and what did that cost? You can see how many mobile devices have converted and what did that cost? And you can see like, all right, so like some of your leads are going to come from desktop, some are going to come from mobile, some are going to come from tablets, but like what percentages are coming from which devices and what do they cost? Usually what you're going to find is that either desktop or mobile is a much bigger chunk of your leads and they tend to be significantly cheaper. Right? So a lot of times, let's say you look at your AdWords campaign and you find out they're like, okay, actually most of my leads are coming from mobile. And those leads are actually cheaper than my desktop leads. Okay, cool. So now we know this. We know that we have one out of these three possible options that's producing the bulk of our leads. What do? Well, we don't have to cut out desktop leads, right? That's not necessarily what 80-20 is telling us. It's not saying like just kill the 80%. You could do that, right? But overall, you're going to get less leads. You're probably going to do less deals, right? Probably won't work out for you the way that you want it to. Instead, what I like to do when I find a relationship like this, when I find that either desktop or mobile or tablets is outperforming everything else, what I like to do is put in a bid modifier. And all that means is that I tell Google, okay, hey, Google, whenever you see a mobile person searching, I want to bid more than if they're a desktop person. Because I know in this scenario, right, my mobile leads are more valuable to me. They're a bigger chunk of my leads. They're cheaper than my average cost. They're more valuable to me. So I want to pay more to get more of them. But I don't have to do that across the board. I can just pick out the pieces that I want. You could do the exact same thing for day of week. Maybe 80% of your leads come on Monday and Tuesday. Okay, well, you don't have to cut out Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, which actually is like a significant number of people do that. You don't have to cut out the whole rest of your week because you're going to miss out on a lot. You're going to leave money on the table doing that. Instead, what you can do is use the bid modifier and say, I want to bid more on these few days where I'm getting a lot of value. You could do the exact same thing on hour of the day. Maybe most of your leads come from 12 noon to 2 p.m. Well, you don't have to cut out the entire rest of the day, but you can tell Google, I want to bid more on these 2 hours of the day where I get most of my leads. And so if you sort of zoom out again and look at what we've done, right? You say like, okay, I want to bid more on the 20% of devices that produce 80% of my leads. And then I said, I want to bid more on the 20% of the days of the week that produce 80% of my leads. And I want to bid more on the 20% of the hours of the day that produce 80% of my leads. And you put these layers on top of each other, 80-20, 80-20, 80-20. What ends up happening is you get more leads for a significantly reduced cost. You're putting more eggs in that basket where you're getting the most value. It's a really, really powerful process. And again, doesn't have to be for pay-per-click, right? You can look at the zip codes that produce the most responses to your mail. You can look at the area codes that you call that produce the most responses to your cold calling. Right? You can look at the streets that produce the most responses to your door knocking. Whatever it is, you can apply this basic framework and end up getting a lot more bang for your buck. It's really, 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 really powerful. Now, the final framework I want to throw at you, right, is a little more general. It's a little more abstract. We got deep in the numbers there. We got a little nerdy. I hope you guys enjoy that, right? Something I want to throw out at you just to understand, and this is probably the nerdiest thing I'm going to talk about, I promise, is statistical significance. And I'm going to throw this out here with a warning that most people tune out when I talk about this, and it is absolutely dangerous to your business. I am not exaggerating. You can data yourself out of business. You can data yourself into bankruptcy. And I want to tell you a story. It's a true story. This is someone we were working with, and he was doing his own testing on his website. So we were doing his ads, but he wanted to run all his own tests. He said he had someone on staff. They were used to it. They have a bunch of ideas. Cool. And he was testing a different page, and he would find one that was the winner, and then he would kill the loser, and he would run the winner, and then he would do it again, right? He'd put these two pages up against each other, and he'd find one that was the winner, and then he would kill the loser, and he would run the winner. And he just kept doing that and doing that and doing that. And he would test 2, 3, 4 different web pages a week. I mean, we were really blown away by how much testing he was doing. And he was testing and testing and testing, and he was finding the winner, finding the winner, finding the winner, and then all of a sudden, he's out of business, literally out of business, and just hadn't done any deals, hadn't gotten any leads, scratching his head, couldn't figure it out. And we couldn't figure it out either. Honestly, I wasn't sure what the issue was. And so I sat down with him. We were doing a post-mortem, literally just going over this thing and saying, like, what happened? And I realized what he would do is he would run these pages. So he'd have like page version A and web page version B, and he would run traffic to both of them. And he would get like 2 or 3 leads on one at the end of a day. And let's say he didn't get any on the other one. And he would say like, okay, day's over, test is over. Version A is the winner. It got 2 leads. Version B didn't get any leads. And so version B is the loser. Let's run with version A. And then the next day he would start over. All right. Now, The problem with that may not be immediately obvious. And in fact, to most people, it isn't immediately obvious. I think investors are more mathematically inclined than most folks. And so a lot of you guys may be screaming in your cars right now or wherever you're listening to this because you know what I'm going to say, but like, what was the issue? Well, the issue is there was no statistical significance. If you want to test something and you want to know if version A or version B is better, you have to have a significant amount of data before you make that decision, right? Like, let's say you imagine like I'm running a hot cocoa stand outside my house and I'm testing two types of hot cocoa to see which people like better. I've got peanut butter hot cocoa and I've got peppermint hot cocoa, okay? Which one are people going to like? Well, one person comes down the street and they say, oh, peppermint hot cocoa, that's my favorite. And they buy it and I say like, cool, test over. Peppermint hot cocoa wins. Well, what's the problem? Well, the problem is I only tested one guy. The next 1,000 people that come, is it still going to be peppermint that wins? I don't know. The reality is nobody knows. If you test a very small amount of data, you are very likely to get weird, outsized results. It's very common. If you only test a couple of conversions or a couple of leads, or a couple hundred points of data, then it's going to look like one page is way better than the other page, or one postcard is way better than the other postcard. But the fact of the matter is, if you test it on a much bigger population, those numbers might look very different. And so this guy in this situation, he's just testing and testing and testing, but he's never getting enough traffic in order to really know which page is better. So he's just kind of making random decisions. And so even though he felt like he was testing and he felt like he was improving and he felt like he was doing everything right, he essentially was just letting random chance dictate what he showed of his business to his potential clients. And I'm going to tell you, if you let random chance run your business, the chances are you're not going to do super well. So what is statistical significance? How do we avoid this problem? Well, look, there's a lot of complicated ways of calculating it. If you go online and you Google statistical significance calculator, you can pop in your numbers, you can get, it'll tell you what percentage chance of certainty you have and all that stuff. You can find all that stuff online. I will tell you the general rule of thumb that I use, which is you need enough. And how much is enough? I don't know, but it's probably more than you think it is. Okay? So generally, I won't, for example, if I'm testing a landing page, and this is a really rough rule of thumb, but if I'm testing a landing page, I want at least 100 people on each version of that page. I'll say version A, version B. I want 100 people on both, so 200 people total, before I start to make a decision about what page is better. And even then, if the pages are, if they're very close, I might need more than that. Now, do you always need to go all the way to statistical significance? No. Sometimes you're going to just kind of be able to tell. But I would urge you not to follow your gut most of the time. You let the math tell you what's up. This is, again, getting back to this basic idea of being data-driven and data-minded. Okay, we all have biases, we all have opinions, we all have ways that we think the world works. And I gotta tell you, I've seen hundreds of real estate investor landing pages at this point. I have lorded over thousands upon thousands of motivated seller leads. And I gotta tell you that I am wrong the majority of the time on which page is gonna do better and why. I just am. I think this page is really pretty, it's going to look great, and it just doesn't work well. And meanwhile, the page I think is ugly and terrible ends up crushing it. You just never know. So what makes us, AdWords nerds better than most of our competition is not that we just intuitively know everything and we're never wrong and we just make the best decisions. That's not the case. What makes us better and get better results for our clients is the fact that we actually just say, you know what? I don't know. I don't know which version is going to be the best. I don't know which one is going to work best. Why don't we test it? And that's really it. I mean, I wish I could say it's because I'm a genius and everybody relies on my marketing methodology and all this stuff, but I'm actually not great at marketing. I really am not. I'm not a born copywriter. I'm not one of these people that just intuitively knows what the audience wants. What I am is good at creating systems that test for the outcome I want. And so even if I'm not right in the beginning, I know I can find the right answer. And the reason I can find the right answer is because I follow the data. I don't rely on my intuition. I let the data tell me what to do. And if you can apply that, whether it's the RFM methodology, whether it's the 80-20 principle, whether it's just the idea of understanding statistical significance, if you can apply this kind of data-driven mindset to your investing business, you are going to do more deals for less than your competition every single day of the week. Because I got to tell you, remember in our previous episode, I was talking about the bar is low. I got to tell you, most people do not do this. Most investors are not doing this. They don't want to take the time. They don't want to put in the effort. So if you can do that, you are going to be far above and beyond your competition every single day of the week. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope this was useful. You can find me online at the REI Marketing Nerds Facebook group. That's at adwordsnerds.com/group. And as always, you can get all the past episodes of this show, plus show notes, cool links, all sorts of fun stuff. Learn more about me at adwordsnerds.com/podcast. Guys, this is Daniel Barrett signing off. Have an awesome rest of your week, and I will talk to you soon. Cheers.
This is thepodcastfactory.com.